Hello guys, my name is Bailey and I decided to record a little bit of how I grew up and how I left a cult. So I was born and raised in the UPCI, or as people like to call it, the United Pentecostal Church. And my parents started going, I believe I was about 3, so I was born pretty much and raised in it. And I'm sorry for my lighting here, just 1 second. Okay, there we go. Sorry guys, this is my first video, so it's kind of going to be a little bit maybe all over the place. I'm going to try to gather my thoughts and try to tell you guys what I can. And it's a little windy outside, so anyway. I was born and raised in the United Pentecostal Church, and I finally had the courage to leave at the age of 21. Now, for most people, they usually leave around the age of 18, typically, because when you're ready to get out, you're ready to get out. Anyway, so that was all I knew from the age of 3 to the age of 21. So basically, I'm not going to get into the religion part because honestly, it's been 5 years and I kind of just wanted a free mind when I left, so I haven't really thought about the religion that much, but I will give you a little bit of the basics. So basically, we grew up having no TV. We wore skirts, they had to be down to the ankle, could not be above the knee or even near the knee. And then our shirts had to either come to here, about here, I believe 3/4 length, or to here. No jewelry, we couldn't wear jewelry. Your hair had to be long, uncut, no makeup. Let me think of what else. We could not swim with the boys or anything, and when we did swim, we had to wear a skirt and a long sleeve shirt. It was pretty strict. My parents were very strict. I was homeschooled from the age of 5 to, I believe, 8th grade, and then we actually started public school, which is actually pretty uncommon. But public school was not fun for me because I wasn't really allowed to even have friends outside of the church, and I also wasn't allowed to really interact with the kids and stuff. I didn't really get to do that much. So it was a very interesting way of growing up. I felt very secluded. I did not have a lot of friends. The only friends I knew were church friends, and when I left, they weren't even my friends after that. It was just really weird because the people you've known maybe 15 plus 20 years were no longer your friends. So my parents would spank us. There were many times that we would be in trouble for over 3 hours. It was just a very toxic environment that I grew up in, and it was different for people looking in. They didn't really see anything wrong with it because of the way that my parents acted. So it was just a hard time. Even at school, I couldn't really speak out to a counselor and tell them exactly what was going on with my home life. Dating was very strict. Basically, the pastor chooses who you marry. You have to go through all these rules to marry someone, and it's not, if you're going to marry someone from another church, you would have to go through the pastor and that pastor of the other church to be approved, and it's just a very toxic environment. I'm trying to think because this story is so long, and I'm trying to gather my thoughts, so bear with me. Basically, the pastor controls a lot of what you do. I remember my parents would have to go look for a car with the pastor. They'd have to tell him if they were getting a new apartment or house. I remember when I got my first job, I paid tithes, and it's 10% of what you make. And even for a low minimum wage job that I had, and I was barely working because I was 17 at the time, they give you a statement at the end of the year, and I believe I gave over $1,000, which is crazy because I didn't work very many hours. So basically, half of my check would go to the church, etc. My parents were they argued a lot. It was just not a good home environment, and I'm trying not to say too much because I have had issues where church members have come after me, stalked me. My own parents have stalked me. That's another side of the story. Okay, so when I was 21, I was going through a lot of depression. I was having suicidal thoughts, and I was just having a lot of mental health issues that I didn't know at the time were mental health issues because we were so sheltered. Now, a little backstory, and I'm going to give you a trigger warning on this. It involves sexual assault. When I was 5, a member of the church started abusing me and my brother sexually, and that didn't stop for me until the age of 12. Now, I didn't really know anything was wrong with this because, kind of I did, but kind of I didn't, because we weren't educated on that type of thing. Even in like 8th grade through high school, I wasn't allowed to go to sex education classes. There were certain classes at the school I couldn't take. My mom had taken me out of gym because honestly it wasn't appropriate for me to be wearing a skirt and long sleeves in the gym, especially when it's like co-ed. So so we were sexually abused from the age of 5 to the age of 12. And I did end up telling my mom. I believe I was like 13 or 14, and I didn't really tell her the whole story because I figured that she would get to the bottom of it. And the pastor basically told me that I needed to repent. So nothing was really done, and that caused a lot of trauma in my life, and that's a long period of time for that to be happening. So at the age of 21, I started going to college, and they were wanting to start an early childhood, preschool type thing. So I was thrown into that, and I went to college, I believe for about 2 years. And I remember sitting in the class, and this is actually what started triggering me and making me want to leave, is that number one, I was at the age of needing to get married, etc. And we were going to all these youth conferences because they will have youth conferences that you can go to, and you might potentially meet someone to marry or whatever. You make friends. And we were in church 24/7. I don't remember a day of not even being in church. We had youth group. There were choir practices. Sometimes I took piano lessons from a member of the church, and we were there all the time. Sometimes there would be spring cleaning. It was 24/7. I don't remember a day of not being at the church, even if it wasn't a church service. So we never really had a time to think for ourselves or even breathe. That's how I felt. I was suffocating in this environment. So, I forgot where I was at. There's so much to discuss. Okay, so anyway, back to why I was wanting to leave. I started early childhood college education so that I could help them open a preschool. and I was about 18 at the time because I started right after high school. And I remember sitting in the last class, and they started talking about signs of physical abuse, mental abuse, sexual abuse, and things like that. And I started having a panic attack, and I didn't realize what that was at the time, and I didn't know that I had PTSD from all of the trauma and abuse that I was experiencing through my whole childhood. So I never ended up going back to college, and at the time I was working at Subway and I was in college. At the age of 21, I was starting to just not want to be here. I had suicidal thoughts even from when I was 17. I had a slight eating disorder where I didn't want to eat. I remember my mom taking me to the doctor. The doctor said, "Is there anything you would want to tell me?" And at the time, I didn't want to tell them because I felt like I would get in trouble by my parents because of their narcissistic tendencies, and if that got out, I would be in huge trouble. So they ended up giving me birth control to gain weight, which is sad because they didn't realize what was actually going on. And then, so at the age of 21, I was thinking of leaving because I couldn't stand the environment anymore. The religion, it didn't feel like a relationship with God. I just felt oppressed. I felt weighed down. I felt like I had no hope in life. Anxiety was riddling me to the bone. And, you know, I really could not take any more, or else I would not be here today. So, sorry. At the age of 21, I got a job at Goodwill, and I applied there 6 times, and honest to God, I don't know. I didn't know at the time why. Why would I want to apply at this place 6 times? And then I met my future husband, and we started talking, and I had to secretly text him and all of that stuff just to even date. We were dating for about 4 months, and I remember the day that I left, my mom and I got into a huge argument because you weren't allowed to talk to backsliders. Those are people who have left the church. And my friend who I had known, we were the same age, I had added him on Facebook. Now, Facebook was kind of a new thing. You're only supposed to have, like, godly friends, whatever. So I told her, you know, I'd rather be a hypocrite than live in the environment and lie that I am in. And I remember that day so clearly. I was sitting on the edge of the sofa, and I looked at my back patio door, and I said, and this voice told me, if you don't leave now, you will never get out. So that day, I packed up my bags. I told my husband now, I guess we were boyfriend and girlfriend, whatever you want to call it. He came and got me, and I packed a little bit of clothes, and I left that day. And I'll never forget the freedom that I felt the minute I left the town that I was living in and everything. And I will be back with a part 2 on how that ended up happening.